Hi, everybody. I'm Anthony Ruggiano, and I have a few announcements to make. Life has been good since I recovered from cocaine addiction. I'm happy to say it's been coming up on 34 years that I'm clean. I also created an Anthony Ruggiano Jr. recovery helpline, and I'm going to give you that number right now. If you need help or you know someone that needs help, please call me. The number is 855 963 2113. I'm going to repeat that. It's 855-963-2113. So if someone you know or yourself needs help, please don't hesitate to call me. And in spite of giving back to society, I've been named an ambassador to Face the Music. Face the Music Foundation is a foundation that helps people that can't afford drug treatment and alcohol treatment. They provide scholarships for people to go into treatment. They actually pay for the treatment because not everybody has insurance. So unfortunately, there's some people out there suffering from addiction that can't afford to go to treatment. And so this foundation supplies the money for treatment, which is schooling and drug prevention and recovery. And treatment is very important because in my own personal story, if it wasn't for the treatment center I was lucky enough to go to, I would probably be dead right now because that treatment center gave me the tools to recover. So this foundation affords people those tools to change their life. Thanks for tuning in. We just went over 8,000 subscribers. If you like my content, whack the like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell.
What do you think of Judge?
Thank God. I think what happened, well, you know what happened yesterday. So the Giants offered him the same exact contract, $360 million for 9 years. The Yankees offered him $300 million for 9 years. San Francisco upped it to $360 million. And then yesterday, out of nowhere, the Padres came in with $400 for 10 years. And out of the three of them, thank God the kid has a little class and he stood with the Yankees. I mean, he wanted to be a Yankee. Yeah, he passed $400 million for 10 years, the Padres. But who the fuck's he want? Why would he want to go to San Diego and do what? What the fuck is he going to do? Who's going to see him? Who gives a shit about the Padres? How many people you see walking around with Padre hats on? Everywhere in the world you go, they got Yankee hats on. Everywhere you go, people have Yankee hats on. Yeah. He's not stupid, the kid. With the endorsements now he's going to make and everything, what are you kidding me? He's going to definitely stay with the Yankees. At least he's got class. He stood with the Yankees. Now he's going to finish his career there. They'll probably make him the team captain, you know, and he knows they're going to spend money. He knows they're going to be in contention every year. So I think it was a good move for him. I think the only other team that had a chance to get him was probably the Giants, because that's his hometown. You know, that's where that was his team when he was a kid. But once the Yankees matched their offer, you know, where are you going to go? You're going to stay in New York, right?
What's so important about New York?
It's New York. It was so nice. They named it twice, New York, right? What do you mean? Listen, I've been to a lot of places, and everywhere you go, people from New York stand out. And that's just how it is. And we're hated, we're disliked, and, you know, because everybody wants to be a New Yorker. Our accent is the best. I mean, come on. It's unique, right? Listen, I lived in Idaho. I stuck out like a sore thumb. The girls were throwing themselves at me because of my accent. I lived in Washington State. I stuck out like a sore thumb, right? California, I had a great time, right? In California. And you can feel the difference between California and New York. You can feel the difference, you know what I mean? I've been all over, even in jail, even in federal prison. So in federal prison, you have crews from every spot, Boston, Baltimore, you know, Rhode Island, Jersey, you know, all over. And New York is always the most disliked, you know, whatever you want to say, or the most, you know, I don't know. It's just, it's different. It's just different. And I think people from New York have more common sense than a lot of other people. I'm talking about New York guys. I'm not talking about what goes on now. In New York, it's off the chain now. It's a different world. New York now, you know what I mean? It's different population. I'm talking about my generation population, you know what I mean? Or my son's generation population. You know, it's just different. That's just my personal opinion. I'm probably a little biased because, you know, I'm from New York, but, you know, so be it. Well, I mean, I knew a lot of wise guys and mob guys from other cities, you know, because my father was pretty popular and well known. And I mean, they got treated the same way we got treated in their respective cities. I mean, you know, it was no difference, you know, like they got carte blanche, just like we had carte blanche. And when we went to their cities, we got respect. And when they came to our city, they got respect. So in that sense, it wasn't different. I mean, you know, I went to a lot of other cities with my father, and, you know, and the wise guys there got, you know, big respect from their, you know, their native city, and vice versa, you know what I mean? So yeah, they get treated the same. Like even New York wise guys were sharper. Like, I don't know, you know, like I remember when we were in Florida, my father had to sit down, and this wise guy from Jersey, my father had a beef with some guys in Florida that were with this wise guy from, this guy Demas. He was a wise guy from Jersey. He owned a club down there. And my father had to sit down with him, and we were there, and he told my father, listen, you know, the guys, you know, the guys down here, they're different, like from New York. Like, they might not recognize you down here. My father said, well, I'm recognized in every friggin' effing state in this country. What are you, kid? They won't recognize me. I'll feed them to the end. And my father just got really mad. He goes, I'll throw them in the Everglades. They don't recognize me. So then he looked at the wise guy, Demas, and he said, let me ask you a question. He goes, what have you been down here to him? The sun toasted your brain? Like, I don't understand what that comment was. They're not going to recognize. They don't recognize wise guys. They don't recognize friends down here. He goes, what did the sun toast your brain? He told the other wise guy. So even though I wasn't an officially made member of the mob, I was a proposed member, and I was on the verge of, I was just waiting for the ceremony. At the last stage of my mob life, I was waiting for the ceremony to happen, but I was respected as a made member. I was allowed to go on sit downs and represent myself and everything, because I was proposed and approved by all the families. I was just waiting for the ceremony to take place. And then I got arrested again for the murder. But before that, throughout my whole life of being, you know, affiliated with the mob through my father, like, I met mutual bosses and had relationships with them and conversations with them. I mean, and sit downs. Actually, I had sit downs with bosses. You know, like I had to sit down with the underboss of Cleveland years ago, Peanuts. I had a beef with his son in Miami. Toni Lee had to fly down from New York, and we had to sit down with the underboss of Cleveland because I had a beef with his son. And we met in the McDonald's in Florida, in Miami. He was having breakfast in the McDonald's, and we walked in, and this old man was sitting there, and he was the underboss of Cleveland. Even in the 90s, like any given day, I would go out in the morning and I would go to the diner on Causeway Boulevard, and Joe Massino, who was the boss of the Banana family, would be in this diner on Causeway Boulevard all the way up by the bridge every morning, holding court. He would sit in the diner, in the dining room, and he had a big round table, and I would go in there, and I would have breakfast, and I would see him. I'd walk over to his table. He would get up, kiss me hello. What's going, you know, I knew him before he was, you know, when he first got straightened out, I knew him. You know what I mean? So now he's the boss. Then he would pay my check. Then later on in the day, there was a where Mateo's is now on Causeway Boulevard. It was another place before Mateo's, and Toni Lee used to hang out in there. And I would go in there, and Vic Amuso would be in there. He would hang out in there, and I would see Vic Amuso. He was the boss of the Luchese family, and he would be hanging out there talking to Toni, and he loved my father, Vic Amuso, loved him. And he would always see me, oh, kiss me, hello, how's your father? Anything. My father had a motion, and after he was in prison for a while, he had a motion to get some time to get something dismissed that could have put him in the street. And, you know, and everybody knew what was going on. Like, you know, that Andy had this thing going in court that might, you know, help him. And I ran into Vic Amuso this day, who was the boss of the Luchese family. And he took me outside the place and he said to me, what's going on with your father's case? I said, well, we're trying to get a bail on him. We're trying to get a bail on him because we got a really good motion. And he told me, whatever the bail is, whatever amount of cash you need, he goes, you just ring my bell and let me know how much it is, and I'll make sure you get it. Now, this is the boss of a completely other family, the Lucheses, telling me that whatever I need, just come to him. And then that afternoon, I would go to the Bergen Hunt Fish Club and hang out with John Gotti. So here I am. In one day, I'm talking to 3 bosses out of 5 mob families. And then in between that, I'm committing crimes all day. I mean, I'm committing crimes all day. I mean, I had, in the course of one day, I had chop shops, I had a stolen car ring, I had a credit card fraud ring, I had a bookmaking business, I was Shylock of money. In one day, I committed more crimes in one day than these so-called mob guys committed in their whole mob career. I committed more crimes in one day. You know, and I'm not saying that to make myself look good because, you know, I was, you know, like I said earlier, I used to pillage and plunder New York City. That was our job. My crew, that's what we did. We stole 10 cars a night. You know what I mean? We had chop shops. We had no conscience. We had no consideration for the public. We were criminals. We were thugs. All these guys now on the internet, they all want to be politicians and professors and blah, and this and that, and make up stories and Photoshop themselves into scenario. You know, I listen to all these podcasts now. I listen to all of them. And I laugh because I know all those stories and I know who was involved. And the people that are talking about that were involved were never even involved. And they're photoshopping themselves into scenarios. I laugh. It's crazy. You know, people never left their neighborhoods. Now all of a sudden they're celebrities. I think for me, the reason why my subscribers are going up and my comments are really 99% of my comments are terrific is because, first of all, I tell the truth. I have no reason to make stuff up. I was in the street for 50 years, you know what I mean? And everybody know I'm an open book. You know, I did my time. I was a criminal. I was a wise guy's son, you know, and I met, you know, and I was in the street. I was in the trenches. You know, I worked in blackjack games. I worked in dice games. I worked at number offices, you know, and I went to prison for this stuff. You know what I mean? Nobody came to me with a $1 zillion deal. Nothing ever fell in my lap. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I wish something fell in my lap, like, and you know, something big. I wish it would have fell in my lap, but unfortunately it never did. Whatever money we made, my father, me, whatever, we had to go out and get it. You know, we had to go, and yeah, we made a ton of money. You know, some people made 10 times more than we made. We made a ton of money and we spent a ton of money. You know, we had no value of money. It came and it went. It came and it went. And, you know, and it's gone. You know, but, you know, some of it we enjoyed and some of it we pissed it away and some of it we gave away. And, you know, and you know, when you're living in that life, you know, you think it's never going to end. You know, like my father grew up with the biggest gangsters in the world, you know, like my father was, you know, when my father was a kid, he could have either went with Sonny Franzese, who was a famous gangster, who was a gangster, who loved me. You know, he loved my father. My father knows him since he's a kid. My father and mother and his wife and him, you know, they were best of friends. They used to go out cabareting together. He would have done anything for my father. And my father did a lot of time with him. It's coincidental, but a lot of jails my father was in, Sonny was in, you know, and we used to see each other in the visiting room all the time. I used to go up there, meet up with his son up there, and, you know, and we would visit them, and I saw him all the time. I have many jailhouse pictures of him and my father. You know, Michael was another good guy. You know, I met him years ago when I was a kid. We protested in front of the FBI building when we were kids. We were the only ethnic group to ever protest the FBI, you know, with the Italian American League. You know, and the day Joe Gallo was shot, you know, Michael was there and I was told to stay home because my father must have knew it was going to jump off, you know, but Michael was there and, you know, luckily he didn't get hurt. You know, Michael was there. He was very close with Joe Colombo. You know, Michael was a good guy. You know, I ran into him a couple of times at my father's gold store. He would come to see Toni Lee and my father. You know, they did business with him because they liked Michael and plus they loved Sonny. And he made a lot of money. Michael was one of the biggest earners. When Michael says he was one of the biggest earners ever in the mob, that's true. He was one of the biggest earners ever. The guy made millions of dollars a week. God bless him. Somebody came to him with something, and he ran with it. He was a very intelligent kid, and he's still a very intelligent man now. His stuff now on these platforms are, that's he's number one, because I think, like me, he's real. He's real. He's real. He was in the life, and now he's not, and he has a story to tell. He has a story to tell to help people and help himself, just like I have a story to tell to help people and to help myself. As far as everybody else is concerned, Sammy the Bull is Sammy the Bull. He's got a big name, but let's be real. If it wasn't for John Gotti, there would be no Sammy the Bull. He's another guy. He doesn't have to make up stories, and he doesn't. He ain't looking out for me, that's for sure. Because I want to go on your show, Sammy, but you don't want to call me. You forgot, So, but other than that, he's pretty real. But you got a lot of guys out there that are full of shit.